Hello, friends. Welcome back to the show and a happy new year to all of you. Well, I'm kicking off this year with something special. For the next 3 weeks, the next 3 Tuesdays here on the Out of Patience feed, it's getting hijacked with a series I produced earlier last summer called Walk It Off, Men Don't Talk About Cancer, a passion project about men, cancer, and all the shit we never say out loud. Now, Walk It Off has already built its own audience with thousands of listeners across the world, and it's got its own feed and its own landing page at walkitoffpod.com, but it belongs here too, because this is where the story started. The first episode is simply called Man Up, and it features my dear friend Trevor Maxwell, the CEO of Man Up to Cancer, who was at the time living the classic Maine stereotype, big guy, strong guy, family guy, brawny man, until cancer tore that identity in half. He ended up bedridden, ashamed, and ready to vanish from the planet, and his wife refused to let him. That brought him back to life and gave birth to Man Up to Cancer, the largest community for men with cancer anywhere. My friend Eric Charsky joins him on this episode as well. Eric and I met in 2008 during the Livestrong Yellow Wristband phenomenon, where he served as a national lobbyist for the mission. Eric has had 5 cancers and 49 surgeries, and he's still standing. Together we talk about what happens when the word tough stops working. This one's raw, ugly, and overdue. So without further ado, here is episode 1 of Walk It Off. Men Don't Talk About Cancer. Man Up.
This series was made possible in part with funding from Merck, Takeda Oncology, and ARCO Advocacy.
So I'm here to ask my guest, Trevor, the ultimate loaded question: how did cancer fuck with your head?
Oh, Matt Zachary. I mean, how long do we have for this episode, dude?
It's a 90-part series.
Yeah, okay. This is going to be a while now.
Welcome to Walk It Off. Men don't talk about cancer. And man, do I have a problem with that. So let's get into it over the next 3 episodes of this series.
What am I still working out? Well, after living with cancer for 7 years, it depends on the day. And it's kind of like you do get this hard-earned wisdom over time when you live through it. But then there's this John Hyatt song. I think it goes, just when you think when you got it whipped, you're pounding the pavement and your daddy's wingtips. And to me, that's like, just this past week, I felt anxious again and health anxiety creeping back in, and like, oh, is this headache, a brain tumor now? So I think it's constantly working out. There's no linear process to living with cancer or healing from cancer or any of that. How did cancer fuck with my head? Oh, I mean, the myriad of ways. Well, maybe I could take you back a little bit and share a little bit about my diagnosis.
Wait, you had cancer?
Yes, I do have. Don't drink my water. You might get it.
Well, we talk about like PTSD. There's active traumatic stress disorder as well. I don't think we give enough people grace that is actually a thing that can exist right now, because there may never be a post.
Yeah, I'm definitely in that camp. I'm shell-shocked a little bit. It's like 7 years. I've been living with this for 7 years. I've gone through tons of surgeries, tons of treatments. Like, I haven't really had a break. Like, I've been cut up and poisoned and all the stuff for a long time. Like, I have a little bit of a tremble in my lip and in my hand all the time. And that's just the chronic stress of living with something that's trying to kill you all the time. And it's like, I just want to acknowledge that I have chronic stress. So I'm just going to take a big breath and get into that place where I can, like...
Well, Normandy every day, all day. That's what this is, right?
Yes.
I can't think of a better way to open this series than with that clip from Trevor Maxwell. He's a husband, a dad, a journalist, and he's a badass fellow cancer survivor. I'm Matthew Zachary, host of the longest-running healthcare show, Out of Patience. I'm also the founder of the nonprofit Stupid Cancer. I was diagnosed with brain cancer when I was 21. So I can tell you from experience, cancer is one of those crises that will change you. You look different, yeah, and everything that made you you is called into question. But you also see things differently when you're dealing with stupid cancer. And one of those things that many men see in a new light is their own masculinity. Like, who are you as a man?
Definitely feel like I've gone through a lot of trauma, but also built a ton of resilience. And so those things go hand in hand for me.
How macho on the scale of macho do you think you were prior to?
Well, I think that's kind of where we get into me getting fucked up was, I don't know. I mean, those definitions are so hard. What is macho? I can tell you
were you a lumberjack? Were you on the brawny paper towels?
I think I could have been on the brawny paper towels, yes, but I think my attitudes towards men and women were fairly modern. So let me give you my ideas of masculinity pre-diagnosis. My idea of masculinity is being an equal partner to my wife in providing for our family and raising our two daughters, is carrying my load in terms of maintaining our house and our property, having a good distribution of labor that both my wife and I are comfortable with. And a lot of that for me meant physical labor. I live in Maine. I split wood. We heat with wood. So chopping, splitting wood, bringing it into heat, doing physical things around the house, doing the typical things. Lawn
Have you
mowing.
Used a nail gun?
Absolutely. I was on a construction framing crew for a couple of years. So using my hands, being physical, I'm 6'4", 240 pounds. So I'm a big physical guy. So that's also part of my masculinity, is using my size and strength to help my family and my friends. Protecting my children along with my wife. We're both protectors of them in different ways, but making sure that they are protected and cared for and safe. So I think that's my idea of being masculine. And when I got sick in 2018 and I got cancer and I was going through chemotherapy and surgeries, all of those masculine norms that I had in my head were completely challenged. I was emasculated in many ways. I'm all of a sudden in my bed feeling sick after chemotherapy, and my dad's mowing my lawn, and my friends from my town are coming over to help get the wood in for the winter. And I'm, feeling ashamed. I'm in my bed, not able to help. My wife and her sister are moving things around in our house, and I'm not able to help with them. And so that first wave for me was like the loss of those roles, those tasks, even like the daily tasks and daily routines of myself as a husband and a dad, very practical things. And then the second wave for me was mental health. So as I was losing those physical abilities, I started to feel like a failure. I started to feel like, first of all, back then, somehow I felt like getting cancer had been my fault, even though I now know that is objectively untrue, and that I wasn't coping with it well. And I started to feel like I was failing as a man and as a cancer patient, because when you look out, this was 2018, and I'm looking out and reading online about cancer. And when you see men with cancer represented in popular culture, whether it's in online articles or magazines or books, you tend to see these guys who are running 5Ks and working full time, and they're being champions, and they're still supporting their family and doing all these things, and they're kicking cancer's ass. Yeah, I'm kicking cancer's ass. Well, I wasn't kicking cancer's ass. Cancer was kicking my ass. And I was in the bed, and I was on the floor, and then I sunk into a deep depression. And a lot of that depression was that I felt like I was failing, and that I felt ashamed that I was depressed and anxious. I'm like, I'm 41 years old. I'm going to die. I'm going to leave my wife and my young children. Our daughters were 12 and 10. I'm going to leave them. And all the things that I wanted to be, like, my identity is around being a husband and a dad, number one. And all of those things I felt like were gone. And so I experienced a period of deep shame, and my mental health really went to a dark place.
Snap out of it!
If you recall the movie Moonstruck, when Cher smacked Nicolas Cage and says, snap out of it. My version of that story, and you know where I'm going with this, is I'm laying on the couch, nowhere to go, couldn't play piano, couldn't eat food. All my friends went to grad school. And my dad said, if you're going to die, die employed. I got a job. Real story. True story. Tell us your slap in the face, metaphorical aha moment from Moonstruck about your wife.
Yeah, I mean, My wife, Sarah, is amazing. We're high school sweethearts. So we've been together since we were 16 years old. And when I got diagnosed at 41, that it was a complete shock for both of us. And I think she recognized and had a lot of compassion for my mental health and understanding that, as I do now, I understand that grief was normal. Like, that grief is normal when you go from being in the middle of your life and a healthy dad of 2 to a stage 4 cancer patient who's probably has a death sentence. That grief is normal. But I didn't know that at the time, and I didn't feel it at the time. But for her, so what I told her was like, I'm a burden. This is another theme for guys. We don't want to burden our people. We don't want to burden our spouses, our partners, our kids. Like, we got it. We're the rocks. So I felt like I was ashamed of failure and that I was a burden on them. And literally that was in my heart and my head, that they would be better off without me. And so I'm like, I'm just going to go up to camp. Her family has a camp in northern Maine in the middle of woods by Mount Katahdin. I'm like, I'm just going to go up to camp. I want to be left alone. I just want to go up there and disappear. Like, this is crazy talk, right? But like, that's how I felt. And my wife is like, fuck that. You're not going anywhere. We need you here. You need help. And this was my Shawshank Redemption moment. Hopefully you all know the movie, but
Crawling through the pipes of shit.
But then the moment where it's get busy living or get busy dying, because it was the end of 2018 and I was a mess physically and emotionally, and I wanted to just disappear. And my wife was like, no, we need you here. And she was losing it. And she's like, Trevor, like, you got to get help, pull it together. Basically, yeah, like, pull it together. Get employed. No, but pull it together. And I said,
if you're going to die, a dad. Die sawing wood.
Yes, exactly. And she said, well, I said to her, I can't get over the fact that I think I'm going to die and my kids are going to remember me. The girls are going to remember me as sick. And she took a beat and she looked at me and she gave me that look like, I'm going to say something that you might not like. And I'm like, I knew she was going to say something. I was like, just tell me whatever it is. I need to hear it. And she said, I'm not worried they're going to remember you as sick. I'm worried they're going to remember you as sad. And that was the moment for me. And it wasn't like the movies when someone tells you something and you realize, like, oh my God, I'm not this person. Like, I'm not sad. I'm going to be happy now. It wasn't like you snap your fingers, but it was when I realized, like, yeah, no matter how long I have to live, if I have a year or if I have 40 years, I need to be myself. I've got to get out of this place of dwelling in this grief, and I've got to move forward. And I said to her, I'm not going to be able to do this in a second because I'm in a pit right now. Mentally, I'm in a pit, and it's going to take some time for me to dig out of this. But I promise you that every day from now on, I will do something to try to get help so that I can get out of this pit and be the husband and dad that you three need me to be. And that was at the end of 2018. And that's when my life started to turn around.
Speaking of Shawshank, so Red and Andy met up in Zihuatanejo. What was your Zihuatanejo? What was your next day?
Mine was the Dempsey Center. So Patrick Dempsey founded this center in Maine that does holistic services for cancer patients and their families. Everything from nutrition to movement, yoga, massage, counseling, just all like the complimentary services except for like the treatment itself. And literally I think it was that next day or within the next couple of days after that conversation with Sarah, I went over to I looked at the Dempsey Center's website. I saw that there was like this meditation program. I'm like, I'm just going to go over there. And I went over to the Dempsey Center and I walked into this guided meditation program, and there was 9 or 10 breast cancer patients in the room. Like, it was just getting ready to get started.
You're the XY chromosome.
Yes, I'm the XY chromosome, and they all had the headscarves, and like there was the woman there leading it. And I walked in, And I swear they thought that I was there to like change the AC unit or like, or like wiring or something. Like, what is this?
The IT guy's here.
Yeah. He's this huge guy. He's in the doorway. And I walk in and like, I'm immediately feeling. So as my wife is telling me to get help, my body is also sometimes the body always leads in terms of what I need. And my body was like forcing, it was like, okay, all this grief needs to be processed. And so my tears just started rolling down my face. I'm just starting to cry before I even sit down. And they are looking at me like, oh my gosh. I said, I'm a stage 4 colorectal cancer patient. I'm 41 years old. I have daughters. I am struggling. And they pulled me in, put their arms around me and cried with me and let me talk and cry for the next half an hour at least. And just tell my story. Like, we didn't even do the program until after a half an hour of these women caring for me. And it was almost like a catharsis. It was like, I had to get this I had to go from having this stuff stuck in me to having others who walk that path. And that was the first time that I had went and like actually engaged and sat down with other people going through cancer. And that changed my life for sure. And I'll always remember that day and those women who held that space for me. And that was the first of many. So then I started getting involved in, I signed up for group counseling. I would go every Wednesday. I did individual counseling. It was a process of getting help. Another guy, phobia.
So my version of that was like, I walked into a room and it was grandma's.
Yeah.
And I said, where are all the people my age? So the question is, at what point did you think to yourself, where are all the other guys? And who was the first, quote, guy, end quote, you met that became a peer?
So the question, where are all the other guys, came to me really within the first month or so of going to the Dempsey Center and then going online in Colintown. And I knew that one of two things was true. Either I was just the outlier. Like I'm going to say something vulgar here because I grew up in rural Maine where when I was growing up, even to the point where I was 18, one of the worst things you could be called was a pussy. Don't be a pussy. And that you heard that. I heard that a lot.
Well, we're 80s guys. Of course. Like, that was what we said.
And what was meant by that was, don't cry. Don't be weak. I think as people just going through life, like in our experience, you can say men tend to reach out for well-being and support less than women based on a number of factors. But like when you see it so clear in the cancer community, I was like, why are people okay with that? This is a problem. And I wonder who's working on it. And I'd like to work on it.
All right. So you gather the guys, you start Man Up to Cancer, and now what? Like, what's in your head? What's going through your mind?
I wish this was around years ago. A place where guys can be vulnerable, say whatever they need to say without fear of him. And a lot of reasons that guys who are vulnerable in just a guy environment are not vulnerable in a co-ed environment is because they don't want to be embarrassed in front of women, or they don't want to seem weak in front of women. And they don't feel comfortable. So they just came into our space and said, I just feel so comfortable here to not be judged. It was a judgment-free zone for a guy to say whatever he needed to say about his cancer, his life, what he was going through, the shit show. And I just didn't know to how much extent people were going to get vulnerable. And right away, it was immediate that people went there. Guys just started being vulnerable about everything. Like guys would post, I'm going through hormone deprivation for prostate cancer. Before that, I was having emotional issues and I haven't been able to, be physically intimate with my wife for 2 years. And I'm a mess. And other guys would jump on and be like, me too, bro. Like, I know what that is, or I'm having this, I have erectile dysfunction, the type of stuff that was like deeply personal and could be embarrassing in other settings. Guys were they felt safe. They felt supported and they felt seen. And so people just started sharing about all the physical hardships, the emotional hardships, the relationship hardships, and getting other guys to respond and give encouragement and say, again, it's the concept is very simple. It's I'm having this experience and I'm struggling with it. And, I am too. And now And when it comes to cancer, you're carrying this huge burden on your shoulders. And now you got these other guys and you're spreading out that weight. Like, we're going to carry this weight together. And all of a sudden it doesn't feel so heavy. So in that way, I've always felt like the concept is simple, because that's it. It's sharing your experience. It's that shared experience that bonds people, and you get that comfort and you're walking the road together. But where it got tricky with Man Up to Cancer is that you're not supposed to do that in our culture. So I think that was the tricky part, is would guys be willing to do this? And I always felt from the start, we just needed some role models, some strong guys who would be like, yeah, I deadlifted 600 pounds in the morning. And then I went to my job, hauling trucks. And then I went to my cancer therapist, and now I'm on here just chatting about, my struggles going through cancer, and like complex guys who don't have to trade in their man cards and could keep their version of masculinity, but who also would show vulnerability.
The name of the series is called Walk It Off, Men Don't Talk About Cancer, with an asterisk, which is they do when they find the right community.
Under the right conditions.
Yes. You can't always be the tough guy.
That sort of rugged individualism of American culture, that's not necessarily an inherently bad thing in my mind. Like, I think there's sometimes when that's good to be tough and to solve problems independently. But in history, big problems have never been solved independently. And cancer is a big problem.
Oh my God, yeah.
I think we're definitely proof that if you give guys the conditions and show them that this is a place that they can trust people, and where people are going to have their backs, that they will open up. And it's been a beautiful thing to witness, man. It is, to see the bravery of what these guys say in our forum. And then we started online, and then we started getting together in person. So we have our local chapters where guys are getting together for coffee or to go out to dinner, do things locally. And that is really where the magic happens, because online discussions in chat, even we have Zoom calls, right? That can take you so far, and it's really good. But sitting together in person with another cancer patient or survivor, that is magic. You can feel different all of a sudden. And when you get cancer, when you're going through it, sometimes people that you've relied on for a long time head for the hills, like friends that you've had maybe disappear.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then other times, people you didn't expect rise up to the occasion. One of the things about Man Up to Cancer is that we do have a lot of guys in our community who don't have close friends, and they don't have close family. And then they get diagnosed with cancer, and they're kind of out there on their own. And then they come into our fold, and they realize that first of all, we're a pan-cancer group, so we don't talk about treatment. We don't do treatment guidance. We don't do policy. We don't do advocacy. We are literally social and emotional well-being. It's like we are there as a friendship group, and they come in and they're there because of cancer, but what they really get is friendship. And they get friendship from other guys who are going through it. Yes, but these are real friendships beyond cancer. Like, people in our group are having lifelong friendships where they're getting together to do activities, see each other's families. And I think this just touches on the loneliness epidemic in America for men. I think for many years, there's been a decline in actual real friendships from men. There's been studies that have shown that men have zero or one man in their life that they feel comfortable going to talk about real issues, anything deeper than just surface level conversations. Whereas women tend to have 4 to 5 at least. And I think with the loss of like social institutions, think about all the groups and clubs that men used to do together, whether it's hunting or the Elks or, military, like all these
The Royal Order of something.
Yes, the Royal Order of something, bowling league.
Right.
Where before the internet age, people, actually had this thing, you were there, you went out in person.
3-dimensional space, meet space.
3-dimensional meet space where you're doing things and meeting people, and there were guy spaces for that. And then those disappeared over time. And now the screen is where you live most of the time. Wow, that is a poor substitute for actual real human friendship. So I think that's kind of the secret sauce of Man Up to Cancer, is that guys come there because they get a cancer diagnosis, but they stay there because they get friendships that they haven't been getting, outside of the group.
And then they realize what's been missing in their lives.
Oh, absolutely. That richness of having someone that, you know, you can visit each other's families and you can meet up and you can even, hey, there's phone conversations. They don't need to do something, you know.
I'm sorry, what was that word again? Phone?
They're
What's
still,
a phone?
I've had, you know, 7 open abdominal surgeries, smaller surgeries, tons of chemo, immunotherapy. I'm on immunotherapy right now and I'm stable. But for 7 years, the physical side of it never let up. But when I started to get help for my mental health is when the healing began. And I know that you know the difference, right? When I talk about healing going through cancer, I'm talking about your spirit, not what the cancer cells are doing on a day-to-day basis.
That was Trevor Maxwell. He's the founder of Man Up to Cancer, the largest support group for men after they've heard those 3 words. You have cancer. Or, in the case of Eric Charsky, cancers, plural.
I think I'm up to 5 cancers now. I've had colon cancer, testicular cancer, 2 rectal cancers, and 2 impural cancers, to the point where I've had a modified Whipple, modified J series, and 9 feet of my small intestine removed, gallbladder removed, part of my liver removed. And so I'm at 49 surgeries total for between cancer and back right now.
But you look great.
I feel great. Other than just getting out of the hospital, this recovery is really slow compared to what it's been. But I feel great.
So as a veteran, you have a very unique perspective on masculinity and being tough and what it takes. Can you talk about that?
Sure. So my defining of me as a man had come from my accomplishments in the past. Jumping out of airplanes, doing really crazy stuff, scuba diving into foreign countries in the middle of the night, whatever. The guys that I had hung around with, my tribe at that point, was tier 1 type A man's men that were really well balanced. Most of the guys that yeah, some of them were like just, you know, grunt, let's blow up stuff, but a lot of them were really well balanced guys that if you didn't know better, you wouldn't know that they were just complete badasses. So a lot of them are really quiet about their life, but they walk with a very assured step and a big stick, and that's kind of where I came from. And the colon cancer diagnosis did change my life drastically. The testicular cancer changed my life really drastically because, and I'll be completely honest, and I've never done this in public before, so let's hope everything goes right. But the VA did my testicular cancer surgery, completely screwed it up, and everything, sex life stopped, just completely stopped. And from somebody that has raced sailboats professionally and wore a green beret and wore a red beret and walked tall and you know, the old adage of walk into a bar and you see a green beret and he walks out with all the women. Well, there was a lot of truth to that. And that was a really tough blow to me emotionally. Having Jen by my side was in ginormous help, bigger than I can ever say, was having a spouse. And we were fairly young in our relationship when everything stopped working. And that was really tough for me. And her saying, hey, there's more to us than sex, was a really big help. And that helped me refocus, and then a lot of therapy and a lot of reprogramming my brain of how I looked at myself and how I looked at the world and how I looked at men in general. Was a really long road to go down.
How did going from the military, where you have to be, you know, every ounce of human you possibly can at any given moment of the day, to holy shit, I actually am mortal, but you probably already had the mortality gene baked into you by then.
So going from military to cancer wasn't a smooth road. It was as rocky of a road as possible, going from being Superman, bulletproof, to all of a sudden them telling me that cancer was going to wipe me out. Really changed my perspective on life, and have gone through a lot of counseling. And my counselor always goes back and focuses on those 3 days of saying that was really what changed me in who you see today compared to the a-hole that I was when I got out of the military.
Back when you were sick and I was sick, the show's called Walk It Off for a reason, because they kind of just say, get on with your life. Across the years of your counseling and coaching of men, even with these hyper vulnerable cancers like testicular cancer that affect sexuality, relationships, all this stuff, have you seen a trend that more men are open to this now? Or have you seen where some guy comes in and you somehow get the best out of them by explaining it's okay to be vulnerable?
You and I have been blessed with the gift of gab, I guess, and with openness. I think a lot of people are really ashamed of cancer, or ashamed of what happens to them because of cancer or because of the scars. And we've had conversations with this when I was on Stupid Cancer, also on, how do you explain the scars when you're in a new relationship, and how do you explain whether things work or don't work, or whether you can have kids or not have kids. That's a really tough discussion for a lot of guys to have.
That was Eric Charsky, a veteran, a cancer survivor, and an old friend of mine. When Eric says those are tough discussions for a lot of guys to have, I totally get that. But how can we make them less tough for the youngins? I think the only way to tackle those conversations with your partner, your friend, your son, your dad, is to lean in. Coming up on Walk It Off, you thought you'd be friends through thick or thin, but where'd he go?
What do they call it? Collateral damage? The cancer goes away, but so do the friendships. It hurts. It hurts when you're like, hey, this was my best friend, and now we're not even friends anymore. And phone call, dude?
That's on the next episode of Walk It Off. Men don't talk about cancer.
Walk It Off is a production of Matthew Zachary Worldwide. The host is Matthew Zachary. The executive producer and editor is Mary Rose Madden. Original music composed by Alan Randall, with additional scoring by Kyle Moore. The series was mixed and engineered by Kyle Moore. Interviews recorded live at Matthew Zachary Worldwide Studios in Manhattan.
This series was made possible in part with funding from Merck, Takeda Oncology, and ARCO Advocacy.